It's taken me pretty much 30 years to figure out that my mum and my dad had a lot of wisdom to impart, both business and personal. And honestly, they're one and the same. And my mum especially, her name is Mary, was a huge influence in any entrepreneurial bone I have in my body, right? I just didn't realize it. So she passed away when I was 14, 15 years old from lung cancer. And it was a really tough time for me and my little brother, who's 3 years younger, so he was around 12 at the time. But we didn't process it. I don't think I still have processed it, honestly. And, I'll be processing probably a lot of what I'm about to share with you as I do this video, because I find it very therapeutic to point and shoot sometimes, to just get, it's almost like whoever's listening to this, you're almost my silent therapist, right? But she was amazing. She was incredible. And I'll tell you her story in terms of the businesses that she started. One in particular that, when I reflect and look back on it, is how I want to approach my life moving forward. And honestly, it's made me realize a few things, especially very recently, that I'm going to do her and myself a favor by exploring. So the business that she started way back when was a food store called Himalayan Cuisine, right? Because she was of Nepalese descent. And, to this day, credit to my auntie and uncle, they still do the Himalayan Cuisine stall, right, in Sydney on the weekends. Part of it is as a bit of a homage to her. And that was her passion. Food was her passion. Honestly, she was so smart and beautiful that we're talking about her brain right now. She could have done anything. She could have started anything. Even if she was here today, she would totally take it. She could, not would, she could totally take advantage of, digital products, artificial intelligence, interconnectivity, all that kind of stuff. But her passion was food, because it made people feel something when she cooked, and, it was her way of communicating as well. And whenever she'd walk into a room, she'd light it up. So when you combine that with food, she'd be on TV shows, she'd be on the radio, blah, blah, blah. But her doing that opened up an opportunity, which is going to be the main business I talk about. Well, try talk about. Because there used to be these big music festivals in Sydney, right, called the Big Day Out, where they'd have all these musicians come and perform, and there'd be literally tens of thousands of people in a communal fashion watching these musicians, but there'd be lots and lots of food stalls. And this would have been about 30 years ago now. What she would do, because there'd be so many people lining up for their food, and Himalayan food, to help paint a picture, is like a combination of Indian and Chinese fusion. So they'd be like tandoori chicken, they'd be like beef curry, spring rolls, vegetable fritters, tamarind yogurt sauce, vegetarian noodles, all that kind of stuff. Literally have hundreds of people lining up for their food stall. And she would brew what back then was an unfamiliar tea, chai, right? She'd literally make kettles and pots of chai for the day, and she'd go around to everyone lining up for the food and give them a little cup of chai. And everyone loved it. They were like, what is this? Because again, this was like 3 decades ago, before anyone knew what it was, especially in Australia, right? And by chance, there happened to be the CEO of Gloria Jeans, which still is, a huge coffee franchise, coffee and food franchise in Australia. And he was like, hey, what is this? And she, being the amazing person she was like, oh, it's chai. It comes from her heritage in Nepal, and she was just explaining a bunch of it. And he was very intrigued and was like, hey, can we talk more? So an opportunity arose, right? And she jumped on it to the point where she was in her garage brewing different batches of chai till they found one that was palatable for your average Australian. And they went through that process for a very long time. And to fast forward it, after lots of iterations, got it right, and she suddenly was distributing chai, the natural stuff, through all the Gloria Jeans chains in Australia. So this was like 30 years ago. Everyone was like, what's this on the menu? Chai, what is this? This is awesome, right? So she was the entrepreneur responsible for that. And unfortunately, around that time when it was taking off was when she got sick. It fucking sucked when she got sick because this is how life sneaks up on you sometimes. She wasn't sick and then she was sick. We thought she had the flu, and then she went to get it checked up, and then they advised to get a scan, and she had pretty progressed lung cancer. And we went through the chemo phase and everything, which fucking sucked because I've got beautiful memories of her, but the most recent vivid ones are when she deteriorated because of the chemotherapy, lost her hair, couldn't move from the bed, and then just passed in the night one day. I remember I was in the room with Jordan, my brother, and I remember saying to Dad when he told me what happened, because we got pulled out of school. I still remember I was sitting in maths fucking class, and I thought I was in trouble because the teacher was like, you, principal's office now. And I'm like, what did I do? I don't do anything. And my cousin was there, and I was told, yeah, she died. And then when I went to the hospital to talk to Dad, I was like, I remember distinctly, like it was yesterday, I was like, this isn't supposed to happen to us. And unfortunately, that was the start of a series of events where, death is a pretty comfortable fucking friend at this point within my tribe. But yeah, that really... And because I was so young, I didn't process... I need to get back on track. I don't mean for this video to be a coping video, but yeah, I don't think I processed it at all, to the point where my grandma at the time and my aunt thought that I didn't care about my mum because I was more excited about the leave from school. Like, I was upset, but I was also like, oh, can we get another week off? But I just didn't. And I'm 37 years old now, and I still think about her, and I still feel, I don't know how to describe it. But anyway, I digress. Unfortunately, that happened, and it was around the time when chai tea, the competitors kind of started popping up, and they were offering synthetic chai, powdered chai. And the natural chai that my mum pulled together, all the assortments of teas, because chai is actually like lots of different tea leaves kind of pulled together, and chai itself means tea. Where was I going with that? Yeah, they were charging $10 a kilo, and mum's stuff was 50. And because she was gone, she couldn't convince them and articulate that they should stay natural. So we lost the business, right? Unfortunately. Which, funnily enough, we had them come back to try and get the natural stuff back because mum was gone and she was the glue and the person that did it all. We just couldn't do it. And it's funny, right? Because now it's all about wellness and natural stuff, not the powdered stuff. So that was really unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, when I look back at that whole journey, just of that particular business, from food stall to chai business, she really pursued what she loved in terms of the food stall, which frankly is like a pure form of entrepreneurialism and a startup. It's like you literally rent your space, you cook your food, you make people happy, you charge for the food, and better than most startups, you've got positive cash flow, right? You're not just burning money and hoping your valuation goes up because you're collecting data. It's a real business. But she did what she loved, and then there was an opportunity that sparked from that, which she capitalized on. Because honestly, if you do something that you love, chances are you'll be one of the best because you love it. It's not something you're going to force yourself to do. So that kind of has me asking myself, what do I love? Because my day job is I lead a large business, right, in office commercial real estate, where we do co-working spaces and flex spaces. But I ask myself, do I love that? I'm like, surprise, surprise, no. I'm just good at it. I was even asking, because I'm really enjoying content creation right now, do I love that? And I'm like, I enjoy it, but I don't love it. But when I really tried to ask myself, what do I love? I found the answer was teaching. Especially the younger generation, which is part of the reason I started this startup channel. Because I even found myself at work, I almost validated it last week by accident, where there was a lunch event that we had to take out a bunch of colleagues and some clients, and there was a particular new hire that I hadn't met yet, and I introduced myself just to try and make him feel welcome, and I thought he was like a new analyst or something, but it turns out he was a student from Sweden, right, in Australia, doing a secondment because of the company sending him around. And as soon as I found that out, I spent the whole lunch talking to him, not anyone else, because I was like, oh, that is so cool. Like, what do you find exciting about commercial real estate? What are you learning? Hey, I'll move some stuff around, grab me before you go. I'll educate you on the co-working and the flexibility and where office is going in that regard. And I'm more excited about catching up with him and seeing what I can impart onto him to help his career than any of the other bullshit I've got on my calendar right now. So that's just kind of like, for me, helps validate that I love teaching. I've even had people reach out to me via this startup channel, and also I've got another channel where I teach like how to set up a co-working business and flex business, and I always get excited. I would never pretend I could charge someone or do a course around startup stuff, because I think that's a scam and a scheme. You can't teach this stuff. The only advice I'd ever give anyone when it comes to being a first-time founder is just go do it. Don't be afraid of failure. The definition of courage is the willingness to try. Doesn't mean you have to feel courageous or brave. You just got to do it, and that's how you learn. Anyone who says do these 10 things to start a successful startup, red flag. Sure, if there's like technical things that you can learn, like how to market something because it's part of your process of your business, sure. When it gets like, that kind of stuff, I get it. But when it's like philosophical things or mentorships, that kind of stuff honestly rubs me the wrong way. And I know some people do it out of, from a good place and they think they're doing the right stuff, but I just don't think it's right. I think the only good advice you could give anyone ever is just go be curious and experience the world and try yourself. And you should never really ask someone, like let's say you're watching this and you're in your 20s and I'm almost 40, and you're like, hey Tash, can you give me some advice on what I should do now in my phase of life? It's an imbalanced question, which I should be responsible enough to not give you an answer, right? Because you shouldn't be trying to mimic who I am or what I'm trying to do today, because that's not who I was when I was 20. So even if I gave myself, my younger self that advice, I would turn into a different person than I am today. And if you're trying to model a form today, then that's not the way to do it. I know that sounded confusing as fuck, but hopefully that made sense. You should never try and behave like someone as they are now, if that's who you want to become, or try and exhibit characteristics like that. You need to look at what they did to get there, which no one really talks about, because you know what? The truth is they have no idea what the fuck they're doing. There's nothing to blueprint off back then. Yeah. I think if you've got your mum, your dad around, you should be less interested in the fireside chats with the random CEO on YouTube or LinkedIn, who honestly, is probably a figurehead position and does nothing. But you should fireside chat them, talk to them. Ask them about their life and what they've done before it's too late. You know how many times I wish I could talk to my mum? I would give anything for even just a fucking another day with her, Because I lost her when I was so young and before I could even really become who I am. So I always wonder if she'd be proud of me or... And Dad is an incredible human. And I don't think we've got a lot of time left with him either. Yeah, talk to him. And I know it's tough when you're younger because like a lot of this stuff you only realize as you get older and you realize how finite time is. But I think just do it before you regret it. All right, that's it. I just tried to be a bit honest and vulnerable in this video on this topic, and it's probably a mess because I don't even recall what I've been talking about, but hopefully you found it helpful. And I guess if I skim through what I just talked about, if I'd like to underpin this with any message, and from anything that I learned from my mum, is do what you love, do it well, and when opportunities arise from that embarkment, jump on them. Okay. And talk to your parents. I'll speak to you guys again soon.